Ashes of Outland will launch on the 7th of April, leaving not much time for players to assess what cards they're most excited for. Today we're going to take a look at the top 5 cards that we think are the best from this new set. Despite the incredible amount of hype surrounding Hearthstone's first ever new class, Demon Hunter, it is also worth taking a look at some of the powerful cards from other classes as well. While Demon Hunter is projected to join Rogue as the 2 strongest classes in the game, there are a variety of other decks that look as if they have the potential to be Tier 1, and the cards we will be looking at today are the type of cards which could define those Tier 1 archetypes. However, before we begin, we'd like to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to the channel as well as to turn notifications on in order to stay up to date with all of our Hearthstone content. Now let's get to our first card. The 5th card on our top 5 list is also the only neutral card which we've chosen to include. Overall, the neutral set from Ashes of Outland is both quite weak and abnormally small because of the extra space needed for the Demon Hunter cards, but Maiev Shadow Song is the one neutral card which you might be seeing everywhere. One of the best tempo cards released in a long time. Not only is Maiev decently statted, but it also removes any minion from the board entirely for 2 turns. While forcing an enemy minion to go dormant is not quite as powerful as outright killing it, it is pretty close, and in terms of tempo gained, it's actually better since potential death rattles do not even activate when an enemy minion is forced dormant. Maiev is not only a great removal tool for aggro decks, but can also be played in control decks as a way to gain temporary tempo and bridge the gap to your late game power turns. Maiev Shadow Song has drawn comparisons to Ziliax in the way it might be in the majority of competitive decks, no matter the archetype, for several metas going forward. Next, let's move on to the Druid class for the 4th card on our list, Overgrowth. Overall, Druid might be the biggest unknown commodity of all of Ashes of Outland, and Overgrowth is no exception. The card is certainly very powerful in a vacuum, as it is even cheaper than pre-nerf Nourish was, and in decks such as Malygos Druid and Togwaggle Druid, Nourish was very rarely used for draw anyway. The question will always be whether Druid is able to provide a strong enough win condition for Overgrowth to shine. Whether that win condition revolves around big threats such as Ysera Unleashed and Scrapyard Colossus, or around drawing cards with Overflow and Nourish, and then using Malygos alongside the new card Imprisoned Satyr for game-winning burst combos. It seems an absolute certainty that at some point in Overgrowth's time in Standard, it will be a defining card in a Tier 1 deck, but it's not yet clear whether the initial Ashes of Outland meta will be that time. One of the interesting new mechanics being released with Ashes of Outland is the Prime mechanic. These legendary minions, 1 for each class, have an averagely statted first half, which then shuffles a broken late game version of the same card into your deck. While several of the Prime cards, such as Murgur McGurgle in Paladin and Zixor Apex Predator in Hunter, the strongest of the Prime cards may well be Astromancer Solarian in Mage. The first half of this card is already a Cult Sorcerer, which was played in several tempo mage decks of the past, and Solarian Prime is an exceptionally strong card at any stage in the game. The available pool of mage spells is almost exclusively positive when they can't target friendly minions, as it is made up of largely card draw, area of effect, burn damage, and secrets. All of these things tend to be great outcomes from Solarian Prime, and 2 of the 4 also benefit from the spell damage attached to it as well. Expect Astromancer Solarian to be core in the currently powerful Highlander mage, as well as in any other mage archetype which might arise, whether it be a tempo deck or a heavy control deck or something in between. While Blood Boil Brut has been noticed as a potentially strong card by a few competitive players, it is still our pick to be the most underrated card in all of Ashes of Outland. In many ways, the relatively modest attention that Blood Boil Brut is getting is similar to the way in which Corridor Creeper was overlooked in the days leading up to its release. Of course, it is much harder to activate Blood Boil Brut in the early game than it was Corridor Creeper, but it is also an even greater tempo swing than Corridor Creeper was. And while it is harder to activate than Corridor Creeper, it is still not as hard as you might think when you are consciously trading in a way to maximize damaged minions, and especially when you draw Risky Skipper in the early game. Not only that, but the stats on Blood Boil Brut are so good that it is still totally fine to play it for as much as 6 mana, and not even catastrophic to play it for 7. We expect this card to be a mainstay in Galacroned Warrior, Tempo Warrior, and even Highlander Warrior. While we have already done videos looking at the plethora of different options for Demon Hunter, it would just be wrong to leave Demon Hunter out of our top list entirely. The class is just so strong overall, and that strength is headlined by the card Skull of Gul'dan. Obviously, there are plenty of conditions that need to be met for this to happen, but the best case scenario when you play Skull of Gul'dan is for you to be drawing 3 cards for a net cost of -4 mana. While this comparison isn't exactly 1 for 1, Skull of Gul'dan can get scarily close to being a copy of Wondrous Wand, generated by Heist Baron Togwaggle Dogwaggle that you can simply run in your deck. In any slower Demon Hunter deck, Skull of Gul'dan will often be just a 5-mana draw 3, but that is still okay and is more than worth running for the times where you will have access to the card's full effect. However, it is in an aggro deck where Skull of Gul'dan will truly get a chance to shine. In an aggro deck, you are able to aggressively dump your cards due to their cheaper costs, and consistently make sure that Skull of Gul'dan is outcast. Not only this, but Skull of Gul'dan is actually best with 2 and 3 cost cards, since they can be tempoed out on the turn you play Skull instead of the turn after. Our prediction is that Demon Hunter will be the best class of the upcoming meta, and Skull of Gul'dan may well be the best card in that class. We hope you have enjoyed this first look at the Ashes of Outland expansion, and we'd like to remind you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell in order to stay up to date with all of our Hearthstone videos. Thanks for watching!